Hi, I'm Sean Riley, editor-in-chief of OEM Magazine. I'm here with my good friend and colleague Matt Reynolds, the chief editor for Packaging World magazine. Together as an editorial staff, we recently completed production of Packaging World's 2026 Annual Outlook Report, the second of its kind spanning the entire packaging universe. Welcome to a quick sneak peek overview of the results of our survey on digitalization trends for 2026. The subjects we look into include healthcare packaging, contract packaging, workforce, automation and robotics, digital transformation, e-commerce and direct-to-consumer packaging, and sustainable packaging. This particular video is going to dive into just digitalization as Matt led the way on that part of our survey. The full report is available at the Shorty link. You'll see it up on your screen. It's PW Go to 9052. And all the links to the full report should be available on whatever channel through which you're viewing this video, whether it's our website, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc., etc. Give that link a click to access the full report. Now, with that long preamble out of the way, Matt, let's jump into your research on digitalization. First, how are we doing today, Matt?
Not too shabby. A little windy in Chicago, but that kind of goes with the territory here.
That is exactly what you're called, the Windy City. So we're going to jump right in. Matt, digitalization or digital transformation, as it's called. We hear a lot about it during our day job as editors. From your research, what stood out from the survey this year?
Well, the big picture is that it's happening at multiple different paces.
Okay.
So it's occurring. We still see a huge cohort of people, roughly a third, who don't even realize or they don't fully understand what their company's plan is. But
Interesting.
of the two-thirds that are aware of digitalization and kind of are aware that their company of what their company is doing, we're seeing a little bit more understanding of it. The thing is, it's happening in phases. It's not happening on one continuous, like slope. It's happening in graduated phases. So we're not yet seeing things like, fully AI-driven factories,
Right, right,
autonomous operations and robots and so on. But the foundations are being built. The foundations, really, infrastructure is data and the collection of data, because some of these future state AIs and autonomy in general and the autonomous factory are built on data. So right now it's a matter of collecting data, collecting clean, actionable data across the enterprise and various everything from the factory floor, and we're talking both processing side and packaging side, all the way up into the C-suite where you're looking at some of the more sales and marketing techniques and so on.
Mm-hmm.
All of these need to build these foundations of data. And I think I would argue that we've probably been doing it in sales, marketing, and some of these softer, less production heavy forms for longer and collecting more better data for longer.
Right.
We still hear, in our industry, Sean, we still hear about people running on Excel and some of these things. So that is
Mm-hmm.
data, but it
Right.
might not be, managed or cleaned. One of the ones we heard about in Pack Expo East a few weeks ago was people uploading data into AIs that was 40 years old, written data, but the
Mm-hmm.
AIs are able to decipher it. So you've got a lot of different ways to routes to digitalization. So I would say the big picture foundations are being laid at different paces at different, locations within an enterprise.
That's interesting. And that's, as you were speaking, the first thing that was popping into my mind is I bet a lot of these companies that are responding are doing it and don't realize how much they're doing it, which you kind of hit on with like Excel as an example in marketing or sales or something like that. But that they may be further along in their journey than they even realize. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so that cohort, that 32, 33%, that rough third who don't know, that doesn't mean that their companies aren't well on their way on a
Right,
digitalization
right.
journey. Sometimes we can be stuck in our own silos and we don't realize that while we're using some of these platforms that have been implemented, we are collecting data. We are building towards the next iteration of the connected factory.
So as I kind of mentioned earlier, digitalization, digital transformation, it's kind of something we've been talking about for years, but it's one of those like sustainability or like AI that whether or not we're actually taking advantage of it or have been using it or it's just a term is what we're kind of getting at, and I think you're getting at with your research. So are companies for the most part still just talking about it, or is it something that we're seeing in action? And where do companies or most companies kind of fall on that journey right now?
Yeah, it's sort of like just the awareness piece that we were just talking about. A third, a third, a third. A third are kind of leaders, a third are kind of getting their ducks in a row, and a third aren't
Hmm.
sure. That kind of reflects the digital maturity, the actual maturity curve. I would say the leaders, those who self-identified as either true digital leaders or pretty mature and integrated in their digital journeys, were, as we would have expected, that's a small cohort. It was less than
Yeah.
10%.
Hmm.
Then you've got a pretty good a quarter in the middle, have, multiple systems partially connected. So they're getting there. The infrastructures are being built. The data is being collected. There's another third that, are launching a few pilot projects. They're getting there. And then another third that are just getting started. So you've got, again, the third just getting started, a third that are just getting a few projects and pilot projects off the ground, and then the remaining third, I would call them the leaders cohort. Only a very small percentage of that remaining leaders cohort really feel like they're ahead of the game. So it's a smattering. It's a gradient. It really depends. I suspect some of the largest and most complex and, let's say, at companies with the deepest pockets that
I
have
was
whole
gonna,
teams
yeah.
working on this and have been working on this, probably have a little bit of a head start on that journey. It's not really a race, but they're, the companies with more resources available to them and whole teams are
Hmm.
probably further along.
Yeah, the cynical, or I don't know if that's even the right way to put it, but a part of me was thinking that when you were saying that, it's going to be the people that had the most money that came down from the C-suite that this year for Q5, we're going to do digital transformation. And that's kind of kickstarted it for that smaller percentage that's a little bit further down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think just having the awareness that an architecture is being built, I mean, that's some wind in your sails right there.
Right.
So a lot of this is analysis paralysis and not knowing where to start. Should we start at the C-suite? Should we
Yep.
start at ERP? There's a million different platforms, and we talked about this at Back Expo. We talked about this a little bit at Top to Top last week, or this past week. Just when you say digitalization or digital transformation or AI, it means something different to everybody.
Yeah.
So just knowing where to begin is really hard. But once you start getting the infrastructure built in multiple different, sectors of your business or the full enterprise, it starts coming together fast and it swims into view in such a way that it becomes something that's tangible very quickly.
Well, that's good for the people that are kind of early in the process, which kind of leads into my next question. If companies are early in the process, what technologies are they prioritizing to kind of get the ball rolling?
I'm gonna go for a record. One podcast, one video, number of times somebody says data, because
Yeah,
that
right?
that that's it. Those are the foundational building blocks. Is
Hmm.
is discrete pieces of data, or uh, basically being able to record, and that's, I mean, that's the very meaning of digital, is to discreetly record pieces of
Sure.
information in such a way that can be organized by an AI, by something like that. So data collection and analysis is the number one tool and approach being used. We're seeing some of the things that are kind of at the intersection between CPG and OEM. That's some of that remote monitoring, remote access for equipment that's been around for a little while, faced some headwinds in terms of cybersecurity and things like that. But I think that those walls there's some workarounds there, such that
Right,
that
right.
that yeah, remote access is coming together. We mentioned that a lot is happening in the C-suite, ERP systems, warehouse management systems, these sorts of things. These are the ones that people have really, taken a bite out of already. But the
Hmm.
important thing is that 50, you'll see the chart on the screen, 55% of data collection and analytics that's building the foundation for future, more automated, more autonomous factories.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess with all of that kind of in mind, the companies that have either been involved in it or the companies that are slowly coming up to speed on it, in general, where do companies expect this to kind of be the game changer, or at least to have the biggest impact on their operations?
Last year, just backing up a little bit,
Sure.
we kind of were able to tease out manufacturing into packaging and in processing, and what tends to be the case in a lot of things that are, process oriented, some of the change starts upstream and trickles downstream rather than, as soon as you create, one efficiency, then the bottleneck just moves a little bit downstream.
Right.
So I think last year we saw processing was really where digitalization was making the impact. Now we're starting to see that shift further downstream to where packaging, once the batter has been mixed and baked
Hmm.
and deposited, we're starting to see packaging catch up to processing. But also in areas like supply chain management, um, we mentioned ERP systems,
Hmm.
warehouse systems, these types of discrete systems that kind of ladder up into these enterprise-wide systems. But then obviously there's the softer piece too. So it's in manufacturing, but there's the consumer insights piece. There's the sales and marketing pieces. All of those those softer pieces saw bigger
Right.
leaps in 2026 more recently.
Okay. We touched on AI because we can't go 30 seconds in this industry now, or I guess in the world, to be fair, without talking about AI. It's what all everyone wants to talk about. So what's the survey show for about AI? I'm sure there was questions on there that danced around that.
Yeah, again, we're seeing that kind of in the marketing is the number one spot where we're
Right.
seeing AI being used because it's these large language models are accessible to all of us at all times. But it's really there's no other than marketing. It's manufacturing processes, consumer insights, sales. It's across the board. So AI is kind of it's becoming one of the it's like sustainability in that it's becoming baked into every conversation that we have.
Exactly.
But AI, I would say, is kind of it's a future state to be able to really trust AI as the single source of truth. So right now it's a matter of developing all that good data, the good data that AI runs on, really. It's like the fuel for AIs, but developing good, clean data to be able to drive those AIs.
Okay, that's fair. I looked over some of the research when I was sort of, prepping for this, and I wanted to make sure that we touched on smart packaging. I noticed it was in there. It's certainly part of the digitalization world. Is there anything, earth-shattering happening in there? Has it already happened, or is it something coming down the road? What's going on with smart packaging?
Yeah, I think with the Sunrise 2027, it's kind of forcing the hand for some brands and retailers to adopt 2D barcode packaging, and that 2D barcode can potentially be sort of a Trojan horse to pack in all sorts of information, whether it's traceability. It could be consumer insights. There's a lot that you can put in there. I'm going to use a different AI. Everybody talks about artificial intelligence, but within the smaller framework of connected packaging and Sunrise 2027, there's what we call identifiers, or I'm forgetting the term now, of course, application identifiers. Got
Okay.
there, AIs. So within this digital link code, as part of Sunrise 2027, that's in the 2D barcode or QR type code, a brand owner or whoever's marking that on the product can pick and choose multiple different AIs, identifiers that perform different tasks. So whether that's the link to the website, to it's whether it's a supply chain management, track and trace, traceability, all of that kind of stuff can be built in. So brands and retailers are kind of negotiating it right now. Is you can only fit so much within a QR code before it gets too pixelated, too fine to be able to scan and see. And we know that packagers don't want to use too much of their label real estate on a
Mm-hmm.
big QR code that packs in more.
Exactly.
So right now it's kind of a game of poker as to what is going to win out as the most commonly used AIs. But there's a lot of applications that are available, a lot of application identifiers. So it's probably going to be product and industry specific. If you're doing ice cream, these are the ones, temperature
Right.
exclusion might be one. If you're doing garments and textiles, then it might be making sure it goes beep at the checkout or something like that. So a lot of different AIs are available. But this is a small subset of the wider thing. Still really interesting to watch given its timeliness and next year being sort of a deadline for Sunrise 2027.
Interesting. Okay. So then I guess taking all that we've talked about into consideration, how would you summarize kind of the digitalization story from this year's annual Outlook report? Like if you had to kind of put it in a couple sentences, what would it be?
Everybody's moving at their own pace. If you haven't started yet, never fear. There's a big cohort who aren't even aware whether their company is doing this yet. There's a likelihood that you are already on your
Mm.
digitalization or digital transformation journey without you knowing it, just by nature of you using some of the tools that are out there and building kind of a foundation or a baseline of clean, valuable data that can then be digitized further or synchronized and synthesized with other platforms to kind of become what we envision as the factory of the future, the smart factory of the future.
Awesome. Fantastic stuff, Matt. To our viewers out there, please take the opportunity to access the full report for each of the different segments that we've covered. It's the Packaging World Annual Outlook Survey 2026. And again, it's available at pwgogo.to/9052. I'm spelling it out for you people. So please go take advantage of that. And thanks again for the time, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Sean.